As the Belgian e-business federation, Becom helps Belgian e-commerce grow in the most reliable, secure and sustainable way and stimulates its innovative and international character. With this e-commerce podcast series, we want to inspire Belgian webshops with strategic and practical insights and best practices. In this episode, we'll talk about customer reviews and their impact on the several stages of the customer journey, from awareness over consideration and conversion to retention. To do that, sits with me Olivier-César from Trustpilot. Welcome, Olivier.
Thank you.
So let's introduce yourself first, and can you tell us about you, your job at Trustpilot?
Yeah, of course. First of all, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. So my name is Olivier-César. I work now for almost 6 years at Trustpilot. My journey at Trustpilot started in 2019 when I moved to Copenhagen. Because Trustpilot originally is a Danish company, I started up the Belgian market over there. And then a year and a half ago, I moved to Amsterdam, as we have now a local office in the Netherlands for all our Benelux clients. And since a year, I am now in the management group of Trustpilot, and my team basically helps out all the clients in the Benelux we have.
Okay, thank you. Starting with the different stages, starting with awareness, how important is the presence of customer reviews in this stage? Thinking about TV ads, social media.
Yeah, it's actually a very good question, because what a lot of people think about Trustpilot and not only Trustpilot, but reviews in general, is that they're very important, to build up an online reputation and then to leverage that mainly on website in order to increase on-site conversion. However, what we've seen is that one aspect of the customer journey that hasn't been lightened up enough, I think, is the awareness stage. For example, television, radio, etc. That's why I think around a year ago, what we've done is everyone knew already that it had an impact, but then the question is how do you quantify that impact, right? So we've done a study we partnered up basically with Kantar. Kantar is a very big consultancy, big on data, etc. And what they've done is they basically done a test with television ads, one with Trustpilot, one without Trustpilot, the typical setup where you have an exposed group and then you have the control group, right? Mm-hmm. Now, what they've seen is that actually the people that were into the exposed group, they had around an 8% more favorable view of companies that displayed Trustpilot reviews in their television ads, and they also had an 8% more willingness to buy from that company as well. And on average, they had around a 7% increase in trust of that company. So the message really is to showcase your reviews in the most valuable moments in time in your TV ad, because it really emphasizes the trust that people have in the company. If you look at it, what happens is that people who are already familiar with your business, they are actually now more aware of hey, I actually trust that business, and it builds upon that trust. While people who might not be known with your company say, oh, actually other people already value that company. Maybe it's time that I should do the same, right? I think that's mainly on television. When it comes to social ads, we have many local case studies which prove that once you add Trustpilot stars, whatever, on your campaigns, it massively helps with the click-through rates and with improving your return on ad spend. We've also done several studies, for example, with the London group, and what they basically also said is that once you add stars as well, it increases around a 2.8 times favorability of your ad, right? And Europeanly seen, around 60% of people favor campaigns or social campaigns with Trustpilot stars on them than without. So it does have a massive impact on social campaigns, but also on television ads.
Okay. And what about external review sites? I think of Google, for instance, during the consideration phase, where you were talking about, they get really favorable towards your brand. Do they impact that, and do the customer reviews impact on search engine rankings, for instance?
Yes, definitely. I mean, if everyone thinks about their daily life, their daily behavior, reviews are so important, right? Like now today we are in the close proximity of Leuven. Mm-hmm. I live in Amsterdam, so of course, like this is after midday, so I had to eat something. I'm not very well known with Leuven, so I had to use Google reviews to check, like, hey, which restaurant can I trust? 2 weeks ago, I was in Madeira. I had to, like we had, like, together with my girlfriend, we had to decide, okay, where are we going to stay? Then we just used booking.com. And then every time that we needed to eat something, I was going to use Google reviews, right? Mm-hmm. So having like those reviews, like it is always there, your online reputation, whether you're a restaurant, a hotel, a B2B business, a B2C business, it doesn't really matter, mm-hmm. right? It's always there. Also, when you look into the search results, the scores of like your online reputation are extremely visible. If it's Google reviews, if it's Trustpilot, whatever, like those search results are always mm-hmm. up there, right? And then, like, you can also see it, for example, like in the traffic that Trustpilot has, right? We see that on a monthly basis, on average, we have around 4 million reviews posted on the platform globally, right? And then that really increases significantly, for example, during Black Friday or during the Christmas period. So people are always looking for reviews. What company can I trust? Which one can I not? So like one tip that I always want to give is please answer to those reviews, whether they're positive or whether they're negative. Mm-hmm. That is extremely important. On top of that, when it comes to enhancing search results, what a lot of companies do that partner up with Trustpilot, once they have verified reviews or they collect reviews in a verified way with us, in their AdWords campaigns, golden stars are being added, which are called Google Seller Ratings, and they give up to around a 10% increase, like in click-through rate on average. Right? Mm-hmm. But it's Google data; it's not our data. And then on top of that, like once you have, for example, product reviews, of course, product reviews are used for on-site conversion, but also to make sure that golden stars are being implemented into your organic feeds, right? And also into your Google Shopping. So I think those are mainly the things why it's so important to have like a positive online reputation, A, because everyone is constantly like looking for it, whether they want it or not. And B, because it can be an extremely good vehicle to get people from, from their search engines on towards your website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now we were talking about where those reviews are important. Do we also know what kind of reviews are the most top used or influencing? I'm talking about detailed reviews or just the stars, or are there any reviews with photography, or how does it work, and what are the insights you can give about that?
Yeah. So I 2 days ago I was in Utrecht to give a talk as well about this topic, because one thing, so everyone or like almost every marketeer already knows, okay, if I have reviews on my website that are linked to like a well-known website, that will give me an on-site conversion boost, right? However, what a lot of people still are not aware of is what kind of different results you have using different kinds of formats. So therefore, formats are crucially important. One thing, for example, is desktop versus mobile. Mm-hmm. That whole customer experience is radically different. So not all the time, but oftentimes what we see in mobile is that it works much better to just have your Trustpilot score, right? Instead of using, for example, the content of reviews, because showcasing content of reviews takes up a bigger space, and then it disturbs basically the customer experience on a mobile device. So therefore, what we see is actually that you need to showcase your online reputation, but in actually a more subtle way, on mobile versus on desktop. Once you have desktop, then the whole game changes, because then it's really important to also showcase the content of the reviews in itself, right? If you look, for example, at a normal website, what the normal recommendation would be is to put a Trustpilot score on the top of the website, right? So that it is above the fold, so everyone can see it, or at the end of the website as well, right? So header, footer, and then during the customer journey, where it is extremely important during the customer journey that you diversify your message and that your message is really linked towards the traffic that you want to gather. In Belgium, the most normal thing what a lot of companies do is changing it up between reviews in Dutch versus reviews in French, right? Another example is, let's say, the customer journey or the customer experience is very important to you. Then you want to highlight, right, the experience of those customers in a specific area, for example. All of that is possible. You really want to make sure that the right review is being showcased at the right time in order to increase on-site conversion. Another example that we can use is, for example, if you have the add to basket page, right, or the button, the call to action one, there under you put Trustpilot, just your logo, just the score, and then under that the USPs. Because nowadays USPs are everywhere on websites and they don't mean anything anymore, right? Because all those USPs are the same for everyone. So linking those two, the USPs with Trustpilot, is massively useful as well. And then lastly, but definitely not least, your checkout page. Your checkout page is extremely important to have reviews there as well, for two reasons. First of all, it decreases your bounce rate, because there's basically nothing worse than you having everyone moving towards the funnel and then leave at the end when basically, the conversion happens. And then the second of all is the basket size as well. It increases the basket size, especially with first-time buyers, because first-time buyers, they say oh, actually, people already trusted. Instead, of maybe, trying it out and only purchasing one item, I can purchase 2 or 3 items. So I would say that is the big difference between mobile and desktop, and then also choosing very different kinds of widgets, basically based on the place in the customer journey.
We just had the phase of conversion. Now, what about retention? Where and how do you use reviews in terms of keeping clients coming back?
So clients come back because of a positive experience that they've had, right? So when you start basically inviting customers to leave a review and they actually leave that review, and when they had a positive experience, it will be a positive review that entices them to think in their mind oh, wow, actually, I had a really good experience, right? I should actually shop more at that company. So basically, that is how you make sure that your conversion increases, while at the same time, your retention increases as well.
About gathering those reviews is post-purchase. If they're very happy, they will be enticed to respond to a review. If they had a bad experience, probably for some extent as well. But how do tools like Trustpilot help getting and gathering those reviews?
Yeah. So of course, it's in the name of our company, right? Trust is extremely important. Right. Now, if you look at trust in asking people to leave a review, then it is extremely important that everyone who has had an experience with your company should be invited to leave a review. Now, sometimes people think that working with Trustpilot, whatever kind of review platform, that the goal is to assemble or to gain as many 5-star reviews as possible, which is actually not the case. When you work with a review platform, the goal should be to gather a lot of reviews that give you insight, in how your company is performing, but also to give you a balanced and true reflection of the reputation that your company really has. And that should be the goal. The goal should not be just to have 5-star reviews on the platform. So therefore, it is very important that when a company works with Trustpilot, that every customer should be invited, and that in an automatic way. You have many different ways of putting up an automation. If you have a B2C web shop, we work together, for example, with Magento, Shopify, WooCommerce, etc. Right? Mm-hmm. You can also work via APIs or anything like that. So basically, all companies can automate with Trustpilot. Right? Mm-hmm. So therefore, it's really, really crucial that you follow these guidelines. Right? On top of that, what you can do, because we also want to avoid that people are getting spammed. Right? Now, what do we do in order to do that is you can send out one review invitation, and then you can send out one reminder. I would definitely recommend people or like companies to put it on that reminder, because it gives you an increase of around 30% of reviews, which is quite significant. Right? And then for companies who have a lot of customers that do repeated purchases, you don't want to, every time that a customer does that purchase, let's say like every week, every month, it's too much to ask that person
not
to leave
every time.
Yes, exactly. So you can like what is very like normal is then to ask that person every 6 months or every year. But normally companies do every 6 months, and I do think that's a very fair balance.
Mm-hmm. To keep also the reviews not to be outdated.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Is there a range of dates that you would recommend? Like because I'm coming to the high value reviews, where regarding the date and the time where the reviews are collected, is there a date range that you say you shouldn't put older than 6 months or a year, or doesn't it matter at all?
So on the Trustpilot platform, all reviews will always be showcased, right? Mm-hmm. Because, like an experience of 6 months ago is valuable, but also the one from yesterday and 2 years ago. And now what we recommend is that you send out the review invitation as close to the customer experience as possible, right? And that can differ from industry to industry. If you have, for example, let's take a B2C web shop, right? You might want to send out a review invitation right after the purchase, right? Mm-hmm. But maybe you say like, hey, I only want to send out a review invitation when the product has actually reached the customer. That's also possible. Or let's say you are a company which installs bathrooms, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe, like installing a bathroom, it takes a while, right? So maybe you want to make sure that once the bathroom is actually installed, or maybe, it's the customer lives in there for 2-3 weeks, then you send out the review invitation. So it really depends on the timing and the industry that you're in.
Okay. And how can coming back to the value of the reviews, some are highly valued and other are maybe less valuable to your company. How can brands turn those into social proof on their website or platforms? Mm-hmm. How do you identify those high valued?
First of all, I think that almost all reviews are high value. If it's a 1-star review or if it's a 5-star review, you will always almost be able to learn something from that review, right? So I think that's the first. And then what is extremely important is to have consistency throughout the whole customer journey. If it's from what we've discussed, if it's, from an awareness phase, on a television ad, right, into the Google search results, into your social, into your website itself, that needs to be one whole loop that needs to be closed, right? Therefore, it's also so important, for example, to answer to those reviews, whether they're good, whether they're bad, where customers are happy or unhappy, right? So that is, I think, the biggest value of online reputation is that you showcase it everywhere.
Okay. And do you integrate as well the possibility for the customer who is answering the review and putting in a review to him or herself share that on social media or?
Yeah, for
online?
sure. So it is. So if I talk, for example, like from Trustpilot side on, might be different for other platforms. But you can showcase it very easily in social media campaigns, organic or paid, but also on the website. You can use our standard widgets, which are HTML code based, or you can use APIs. So everything is extremely customer friendly.
Okay, thank you. What would you call the biggest challenges for e-commerce brand in managing customer reviews across the multiple platforms, websites, media?
Yeah. It is especially with bigger brands that they have a lot of different reviews on different platforms, right? Not only Trustpilot, might also be Google reviews, Facebook, whatever, right? So most of the times when they are faced with challenges like that is because they do not yet actively ask people or everyone to leave a review. Right? So basically, they're faced with a lot of organic reviews. Most of the time, those organic reviews will be critical, right? And then you're not in not in charge or not on top of your online reputation. What we actually see is when companies start asking reviews via Trustpilot, what happens is because they ask everyone for a review, so the ones who are negative, but also the ones who had a positive experience, they see a dramatic decrease of reviews being put on other platforms. So it makes answering, for example, like those reviews much more manageable, right? Other companies, if you're bigger, they also use different kinds of software to basically capture all the reviews into one platform. That is also possible.
Okay. About technology and the future of customer reviews in e-commerce, how do you envision that? I'm thinking about the advancements in AI, the new ways for customer to leave reviews as well. Thinking about voice, video. I see a lot coming up, but what is your vision about that?
I think that AI is not something new, right? It became new for a lot of consumers due to the rise of ChatGPT, right? Then AI became a thing. But for many companies, AI has been around for a long time. And therefore it offers many advantages, but also offers, quite some, things that we need to be aware of and look out for. Right? One of the things that if you are a global review platform like Trustpilot, fake reviews, right, are a thing. And that is not something that we hide from because it is very important to address it. Right? I think I might be a few million off, but last year we had around 50 million reviews posted on the platform, right? And when you look at it, is around 6% of those reviews were flagged as fake reviews, right? So that is around 3.3 million reviews that were fake on the platform. However, what you see is that over 80%, around 82%, was automatically removed from our platform, right? And that is a dramatic increase versus in 2022 was around 68%. And that is because of advancement in AI, in detection, software, etc. And this is why it offers a lot of potential, but also, we need to negate the side effects of it as well, right? But for sure, it will definitely, become a thing, right? If I look at my own experience as well, now I start using more and more ChatGPT instead of, for example, Google to search, right?
Search engine.
Yeah. But on the flip side, it also allows a lot of companies to use AI to better understand the data. Right? So what companies now do when they work with Trustpilot is they use AI to analyze their reviews. And what it can very easily do is it can spot what are the positive things in a 1-star review and what are the critical things in a 5-star review, right? Someone can perfectly say in a 5-star review, hey, the product is great. I'm so happy. However, delivery was not so great. but 5 stars. And like people would think, oh, that's an amazing review, which it is. But like that negative comment would normally not be picked up, right? So now everything is being picked up, and companies use weekly or monthly reports to just showcase them like, hey, this is what's going great and this is what's going less great. And I think that is a beautiful advancement that benefits companies, but it also benefits customers at the end of the day, right? Because companies will improve the way that they work, will improve their products based on the feedback that they're getting from their customers. So I think that is a beautiful loop as well.
Yeah, thank you. And a very nice note to end with. But I'd like to end it with a summary, or maybe let's call it key takeaways or do's and don'ts for web shops who want to use customer reviews, because some of them are not using them yet, or the best way to use them.
Yeah. I think that given the fact that we're at 2025, right, like every company needs to have an online reputation which is representative of like how well the company is doing, right? Because whether you want it or not, people will look at your online reputation. Hence, it is extremely important nowadays to come across as a trusted company. And a trusted company asks everyone that had an experience with them to leave a review. And once you have that in place, then you just showcase it throughout the whole customer journey, which we described earlier today.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think that leaves me to thank you so much for these insights, unless you have one last golden tip to share, or just have some customer reviews, I guess.
Like the most important thing
just do it.
Be a trustworthy company, because that is what companies look for, and really use it across the customer journey. And maybe one last tip that I really want to share with everyone is please do test. Test on your website. Test on your socials, because it is not because like one way of working works for one company that the same way of working works for your company. So if you test, then you know what the real ROI is, and then you can really benefit the most out of your online reputation.
It's a learning curve.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Thank you again for your insights. And to our listeners, we hope you enjoyed our talk and feel inspired. If so, please don't hesitate to share this podcast, and keep an eye out for the other episodes of Becom e-commerce podcast series on becom.digital or on Spotify.